Hey, what's up? Good morning, guys. Josiah here at easycaters.com, and today I just thought I would do my morning analysis with you and see if there's any good relative volume trades to take on a day trade basis. Then I'll also see if I can find some swings out there as well. So basically, I just start by looking at a predetermined universe of stocks and I sort that list by yesterday's candle, whether there was a relative volume signal on yesterday's candle. And let me get this bubble out of the way over here. As you can see, I've already got in my focus list down here, and I've already got a few names. US Food, I'm already in from a couple days ago. So what I've got here is, so on my charts tab, I've got a 30-minute, 15, 10, and a 5-minute chart. And then down here, I have a thumbnail which shows me the daily. And so I just use that to see if there was a signal yesterday. So this Reagan um, has had a couple of days of signals in a row, and I'm not sure, what the story is there or anything. I never really look at the news. But so I can see that this is coming back down to a potential support zone, and we're getting some relative volume signals indicating there might be some interest there. And so I'll just keep an eye on that one to see if there's any kind of breakout in the morning that could be traded on an intraday basis. BKE, I think, was another one that had a daily signal. Let me see. This one I just had on my list from yesterday, so I went ahead and left it there. So there was, so we got the low of this range down here where there was some buying. You can see that here. We're up at the top, kind of in a breakout area where there could potentially be a breakout here to the upside, and we're seeing some volume signals. Now, these when they're up here at the high of a range, sometimes it can indicate selling, and sometimes it can indicate that whatever resistance was up here is being churned through or digested by the market in a way. And so I'm keeping an eye on this one. It could just end up being some supply, but if we end up breaking above that and holding in any kind of meaningful way, then that could be an interesting day trade setup as well. US Food, like I said, I've been in for a few days here. I day traded it yesterday off the lows, and I'd already had a swing position open on it, so I just kind of traded around that yesterday and added to it. And then Bill, let's see here, Bill. So it looks like we have an uptrend here, and we're having a kind of a lengthy pullback. We've got some relative volume coming in as we come down to this minor support zone from that prior high. And so we've got a lot, as you can see on the intraday candles, this is, just every candle is higher volume than average. So there's something going on there, and I don't know what it is. Don't watch the news and so forth, but so that'll be one to keep an eye on at least and see what it's doing. And you can see it's actually already gapped up. So we'll see if there's anything available there as the morning progresses. So let's see what else we've got that I don't have on my focus list yet. This one kind of looks similar in a way. We don't have a gap up this morning, it looks like. DXCM is coming back down, and it has some higher than average volume, which, coming down into this minor support level could be some absorption buying. We had, kind of some highlighted volume there and indicating resistance, and then this is not super clean, so I'm not really super interested in it, but I'll keep an eye on it. Suave. So this is just a tiny little pullback yesterday on higher than average volume per range, and it was coming back down to this minor support zone. Looks like it's still flat this morning. So that one could be a potential day trade breakout. We'll see if there's anything there. I'll drag that one down. So these signals get progressively weaker as we go down the list here. So I look at the strongest ones first. Now this one has a kind of a wider range bar yesterday. It does have higher volume, but I typically like to trade based on low volatility bars, not high volatility bars. So that one, it might do something, but it's not that interesting to me currently. This one's a little better. It's still not super interesting because there was some higher volatility yesterday. It wasn't like a tight range where volume got really pent up and orders got, you know, anticipation orders got placed and so forth. So, yeah, I think I'm going to let that one go for now. Oh, that's Onim, BAND, band. So this one's kind of closer to what I like to see, and this one looks like it's still flat in the pre-market. So I'm going to add that one. Basically, we've had a down day on the prior day. Then yesterday we had a kind of a churn bar showing us that there was some support there. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit better so that's easier to see. I like these down bars followed by an inside or small range bar on high volume, so I'm going to keep an eye on that one. CNST, kind of a similar situation, but we've had several highlighted bars in a row. So this is like a higher time frame signal where the daily is feeding into a weekly signal that's happening here. This one's not as interesting to me because we had support come in, but then it got stopped out, and it may end up breaking and going back up, but that's just kind of harder to read. I just really, I like to look for stupidly simple setups that I feel like I do have a good read on what the volume is saying. Sometimes you don't have really a good read on that, and so it's best in those situations to just move along to the next item. This is a one that's pretty good for me. It's not perfect because it's coming right off the highs, but GWRE, I'm going to keep an eye on that one. This one's more like what I like to see. ASEA. So what's going on here is we've had a pullback. We got this kind of base set up here, broke above it, came back to test it from above. You can see there was a prior day highlight right here, coming back down to that same zone, and yesterday it highlighted again, showing that there was some buying happening there. Now this may go ahead and break down lower, but this is kind of what I would like to see on a potential setup. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one. Pod, interesting, but I'm going to let that one pass. It did have a really wide range bar yesterday, so a lot of volatility there. Dropped off a cliff first thing in the morning and then retraced slowly throughout the day. Don't know as well what to do with that one. I'll keep an eye on ABBV. Not perfect, but decent. And it looks like it has a tiny gap up this morning so far. CPRX, nothing there for me. And CMG, my computer's going slower. My poor little MacBook Air here can't handle the video and the platform at the same time sometimes. So this is another one that looks decent to me, so I'm going to keep an eye on that one. And then I'm going to skip down and look at the green days from yesterday, if there are any. There usually are. So here's what we have on the opposite spectrum. So this one's pretty good. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. I typically don't like to buy the breakout of a green bar because there's not as much stop running that happens on that break as with a red bar where people have taken short positions potentially. On a green bar, not as many short positions would need to be covered at the breakout of the high of a green bar. So a lot of times I just prefer to buy over the break of a red bar. But these indecision candles are a little bit different, a little special case where it's kind of both ways. So it can. I already had Bill on there, so it can be good sometimes. It just depends on the candle. This one's okay. too wide range of a candle for me. Closed at the top. Not that interesting to me there either, because it closed at the highs. A little too volatile. This one's a little harder, but I think I'm just going to ignore it. I already have plenty of stocks to keep an eye on. This one's kind of interesting. It closed near the highs, though. I don't like that, but there's obviously some kind of absorption happening down here at this major support zone. So that's a little bit interesting. I kind of want to keep an eye on it. It's probably not going to turn out to be much of anything today, but we'll see. Now, what I do after this, this is another one coming down to I guess that would be a minor support zone here. It's not super clear, but I do kind of like that look. But this one is gapping down, so it's probably not much to be keeping an eye on right now. This one might turn into something in the coming days here. That one's very similar, a little bit cleaner it seems like to me. Let's see. Yeah, so this one, we got some buying happening down here at these levels, selling, and some selling there. We came back down, and it got bought from above the highs here of this small range. So this could break out above, but it closed near the highs, so I'm just kind of, it's not that interesting really, but I will go ahead and keep an eye on that. Now what I do from here, for swings, I would just go through the same process looking at the weekly signals. And so for that, I would switch over to my long-term charts. And so I'll probably do this a little later this morning. But basically, I would be looking at last week's candle and looking for a weekly setup that I could take a daily entry in the direction that I have a bias in. So if there's a weekly pullback and an uptrend, and then daily gets oversold and gives a relative volume signal as well, then I can take that daily signal in the direction of the weekly time frame signal and take advantage of a larger move potentially in that type of setup. So that's how I think about it. But the market's about to open here, so I'm probably going to go ahead and shut this down. I'm not seeing any super good weekly signals yet anyway, so this one's a little better. PFPT, it had a little bit of a pullback here and got absorbed on this candle, but this week we've dropped a little below that. We'll see if we recover that and break out from the highs. So this one's not something I would be ready to trade yet, really, until we start forming a base on the daily. A lot of these are just showing some resistance volume, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, so nothing there either. Let me look at these most important weekly signals down here. Most of these I've already looked at in one way or another in the past day or two. Yeah, that's more resistance type of volume. And that was definitely resistance volume. It gapped down this week. So, yeah, that one's looking like it was resistance volume as well. Went up to the highs of a weekly range. Same thing there. Resistance volume. And I'm looking down at this weekly chart down here and just seeing that we're up the highs, putting in a weekly rel vol signal, indicating that some supply has come in, that buying orders have been sold into, or some absorption of those market orders has happened. So yeah, nothing super interesting there. So I'm going to switch this off, and then I'll just focus on my focus list for the morning. And what I do here is I look at the opening range on my intraday charts, and basically I look for a high volume signal, high volume opening range signal to happen, which can indicate some pent up demand or pent up supply. I like to see effort being expended to the downside before I buy, or effort being expended to the upside before I sell. And I like to see that effort being hit with volume absorption in one way or the other. And so that's kind of what I look for. I look for a stock that's, looking strong in the morning but pulls back maybe to yesterday's closing area, that kind of thing. Um, in the lower part of the opening range, it's trying to go down. It's expending that effort, but hitting into that volume absorption. The float gets absorbed and the stock reverses and starts going back upward. And so I look for that initial pop off the bottom of a pullback like that a lot of times. So that's what I'll start looking for. And if I start seeing some signals here, I'll restart the video and take a look at those. Hey guys, I'm back. And I didn't get a chance to turn on the video before I entered this trade, but I did end up taking a trade on Bill. I will try to record a video of my actual trades while they happen live in the coming days. I'm actually working off of my little MacBook Air today, and it just can't seem to handle the video and trading and everything at the same time. So I'm just I've got my one window open here, so I thought I'd try to limp through this with this little computer and see if we can get through this. But what I ended up doing, and this was a stock that was on my watch list this morning that I went over in the morning analysis. And so we had, this daily pullback. Volume was coming in down at the lows of the pullback. We were kind of at a minor support level, and so I was looking for a pop to happen over the high of yesterday's candle, and that's exactly what happened this morning. We gapped up, um, broke through yesterday's high, then pulled back to the low of the opening range, and so you can see it best on the 5-minute here. There was some relative volume signaling coming in down here at the lows of this opening range. And so I took it on a break of this second 5-minute bar here. And my initial stop was under the low of the day, under the opening range candle over here. I do like to, after the trade starts working, I like to reevaluate that stop and see where the risk to reward for 2 Rs and 4 Rs and so forth, 4 times your risk, 2 times your risk. I like to see where those levels are relative to an ideal entry. So you can see, so initially my stop was down lower, and so that puts the multiples farther up. So I like to take the ideal target and base the target on the ideal entry and stop. And so that ended up being this high and this low, not the low of the day. And so this ended up running straight there by this candle here. Ended up breaking through the high and taking off. And it's probably going to continue this afternoon. But I ended up only having half position open on this trade, so I didn't and didn't have a second half to leave on till later this afternoon, unfortunately. Um, so that's where I'm at. I got the first chunk of this trade, and that was it. So trading is kind of a, nothing's ever perfect in trading, and today was another example of that. But at least the trade did work out nicely. That was kind of a nice thing, and we'll try to get a full position on next time. So this time, basically, saw the relative volume come in. There was a lot of volume signaling as we came up through this, crossing above the open and so forth. I thought it was kind of going to stall out in this area here before even reaching my first target. But it ended up just powering through, never trailed out on a candle by candle, bar by bar trailing basis. But anyway, so this one has just been straight up, almost to the 4R target, 4 times your risk. And so now it's pulling back, probably going to come down to the 2R high of the day area, which is where I initially got out. So that was the trade. I didn't really see anything else going on. I had a opening range signal on USFD, but it was just a strong sell-off happening this morning. Yeah, so this one is one that I'm in just as a swing. I'm looking at it on this daily chart over here. We have this daily signal inside kind of a weekly bottoming pattern. And so that's what I'm looking at for a swing. I like to play those in the direction of a weekly pattern. BMY looks like it had a tiny light signal on the 15 minute, and that was just a sell off. That was nothing really that interesting to me. It did have this bounce at the lows there, and you can see the relative volume came in and signaled that pop. But I didn't see that. Wasn't really watching for it. GWRE, I realized that was too illiquid for, at least at the time, it just wasn't liquid enough for what I do. So I skipped that one. It was just kind of gapping all around on an intraday basis. Reg in, yeah. So this one was kind of just straight up after the open. I did actually try to look at this on the 5 minute. I was interested in, and I don't have this on time-based mode right now. It's easier to see on the time-based mode. But so on this green candle, I believe, or maybe it was this one, while it was still forming, it was red, and I could see relative volume coming in there to support that red candle, and it reversed immediately and just took off. Um, these are not the type of setups I really like to take anyway. This is kind of that 1, 2, 3, 4. I used to trade those a lot. I don't trade them a lot anymore. I really like the pullback type trades better. But that was a valid signal, and I was kind of like, should I take it? But ended up skipping that one, and it actually kind of took off before I could have gotten that order in anyway. But so that one was another one that worked, but I missed out on. So my trade for today was just Bill, and I adjusted my 2 swing trade positions on USFD, and I can't even remember the other one. OLN from yesterday. I think I mentioned that in the video. So those are the positions I currently have open. I added a few shares to that as it pulled back, and so we'll see how it goes. And hopefully this has been interesting, you guys. I know it's kind of like just me droning on about my analysis and so forth. But I've had requests from people to talk about relative volume and how I look at it, how to read it, and that kind of thing, because nobody's really doing that. And so I'm giving it my best effort, and I'm seeing if I can get some useful information out there. Hopefully, it's useful to somebody. I'm sure I'm going to get some snarky comments and stuff, but anyway, hopefully you'll get something from it, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.